Welcome to episode number 2 of the Blacklist podcast. This one's brought to you by yours truly, Greg Nyce. And I wanted to welcome my man Alfred Nomad in the house. I got Alfred here. He's fresh off a trip from Ghana, among a whole bunch of other things. We got to catch up on some things, and we wanted to make sure that you guys could be a part of his and I catching up on some things, because the things that we talk about happen to include you all, especially because we're building this community collectively. So, Alfred, what's up, man? Talk to me. How you been?
I'm good, man. Busy, as I typically say, but I'm good. Like we said on the last time we were chatting it up, like it's good to see you. You know what I'm saying? It's good to be able to like we catch up on the phone and stuff, but we both been moving around a lot, so it's good to I feel like this will be the longest sit down conversation we've had in a minute. So it's good to see you. You know.
Indeed, man. Indeed, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I know I was asking you about jet lag because you just flew all the way across the country to a whole nother country. You know what I mean? So how did that impact your travels?
Yeah, it's jet lag is real for sure, but I think it depends on what way you're traveling, too,
Mm,
like whether you lose time, lose a day, gain a day. For me, my, when I went to the UK before, I was getting up hella early based on like the time difference. So like
mm-hmm.
I was getting up hella early just because of what time it was. But this time around, I felt like my eating schedule and everything was just off this time around. It was with it because it's a like an 8 or 9 hour time difference
The
from where we're
difference,
at.
yeah. Yeah,
So yeah, it was all over the place. I could be up in the middle of the night and stuff sometimes. So it is a real thing, but it's just kind of like me getting on the schedule of where I'm at. And once I do that, so it took me a few days, but after that,
I got you. I got you, man. So for those of you who don't know, I've had the opportunity to go over to Ghana for a residency of sorts, or I should say, what would you say, a mentorship, or how would you classify it?
so technically it was an artist fellowship,
Fellowship. That's the word.
residency a residency was a part of this travel. So I was a part of a arts program called One Beat, and
Mm,
it's been developed by this organization called Found Sound Nation. So there's like levels, but the Found Sound Nation is a nonprofit organization that's based in New York, and they created this program called One Beat, and I want to say they've been doing it. I don't know if it was like 2005, 2006, something like that, but it's been around for a minute. So
mm,
they've been doing this program, but it's basically a program where they bring artists from around the world together to all come to one place, and the intention is for them to encourage them to collaborate on music, and typically they might put out a project together. They may even go on a tour or something together. But this time around, this was a pilot program because this time around they wanted to include artists that had a community aspect to what they do. And there was everybody pitched a project, like a community project, along with the fact that they're a music artist. And everybody had that. So we were in tandem, like collaborating on music, but then also we had projects of our own that we were pitching during the fellowship, and at the end of it, like it all accumulated to a show, and us pitching projects basically to like the network out there, and it was us about building community, like this global community, and ways that we can build and work with each other as well. So it was a beautiful thing. It was pretty perfect for me. Like I really wanted to be in. I wanted to be a part of this program, the One B program, a year ago. I applied for
mm,
it last year and didn't get
mm,
in.
mm.
I forget where. I feel like they were doing it in the U.S. Last year, where I was trying to do it at, but this time it was in Ghana, which is actually like a bucket list place for me that I really wanted to go to as well. Like a community I literally had written down that I wanted to connect with and wanted to be a part of this network, especially amongst the African diaspora. So it was a dope thing to come to be at a perfect time and to be around people that like how perfect for me. I guess we could talk
I'm
more
about to
about
say,
you
yeah.
and stuff,
No,
but
no, I get it.
to
I get it,
to
man.
connect with black artists from around the world that care about community. It's like
It was
can't
like, come
write it
on,
any
yeah, yeah,
better.
yeah, can't write any better.
Yeah,
Yeah, I get it.
yeah.
I get it, man. I get it. it might be too soon to ask this, but what's the most dominant memory of the whole experience that like sits in the forefront of your mind?
Most dominant memory. Most dominant memory. Um, there's two. I feel like um, we went to visit when we got back to. So we did two parts of it. We had the first half. We were out in the wilderness, basically on a residency, connecting and collaborating, working on some music and stuff, and
Hmm.
workshopping. And then the other half, we were in the city of Accra, and we were working together there, but connecting with other community spaces in the city. So we were like
Hmm.
they had us travel to different community spaces,
Okay.
and one of them was a space called Vibrate that's ran by a woman named Sandy, and I had like a full circle moment real quick when I was there because as Sandy was like breaking down the space and showing us, you know, what it was about, telling us the backstory, which some of it was really familiar for me, like with love. It sounded a lot like love when it came to like wanting to highlight a certain culture that's there, which is kind of like where it started at. But
Hmm.
then she broke down things that they were doing. Like they had partnerships with like Spotify and Kendrick Lamar had come and highlighted their space. And then it clicked that there was a video that I watched from Kendrick Lamar that like around the time that he traveled to Ghana and like it was like a whole thing. He ended up like highlighting some artists that were out there with Spotify, like highlighted some dope artists out there and this community space. But I didn't realize it was the same exact place, you know.
Oh wow, wow.
And it also just seeing what they were doing and people that were there in the space and just how they were going about it it inspired me in a way and like let me know with the certain community uh goals that I had. I was like, yeah, I gotta have like a physical space attached to what I'm doing. It was like all these different like full circle moments for me all connect. It was like when all the dots started to connect
Oh
basically at
yeah,
one
everything
moment.
lined up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was like one
Yeah.
moment that stuck out to me. And then I guess I would say we had the show at the end of the whole thing, like the whole experience. And we had this like final song that we did that pretty much all the fellows played a part in on that
Right.
song. And we performed this like we are the world moment um, of this whole experience. And by the end, it was like it felt like we were like a basketball team that just won the championship or something. We all were like super happy together and all
That's
this. So
dope.
it was, yeah, yeah. So I feel like those were like two moments that so there's more that stick
No,
out.
of
I feel like
course, of course, of
yeah,
course, of course. Yeah.
I have another one that's coming to mind right now, but there were some just really beautiful moments
Right.
that I really appreciated. But those are two
I
that stuck out right now.
got you. So like musically, and I know like things about that particular experience still have to kind of sink in and then they'll start to kind of I guess come to the forefront as time go by and we get into next year and all those things like that. But like where do you find yourself at musically nowadays in terms of the kind of music you want to make or the kind of or the things that you want to say in the music? Where do you find yourself now?
I actually was very inspired being out on this trip and basically recorded a full project for while I was out
Oh,
there. So
good grief. Yeah.
yeah, so so it all kind of worked out. So shout out to I feel like I mentioned every damn thing I do, but my guy Duran Ratcher, Saxophone Money, he had I don't know. I feel like he knew what he was doing, but he didn't say it. It was like real on the
Hmm.
low. But he sent me a pack of beats, and I feel like he hasn't sent me a pack of beats in a long time. Like he
Oh,
sends me beats, but not
uh-huh.
like a pack. But
Okay.
right shortly before my trip, he sent me a pack of beats, and probably the day or two before, I remember the moment too. That I started listening to some of the beats, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna hold off on listening to these tracks because typically when I hear music, I'll start writing. So I'm like, don't play me nothing if I can't write to it because I might start immediately. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm gonna take this music with me on this trip and just see where I'm at when I'm recording, and maybe I'll have like a little throwaway Bandcamp EP I could toss out as like a time capsule type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I took them with me, and from maybe like that day till throughout the rest of the trip, I was writing to that music, and ended up collaborating with several artists that were there. I actually had the most collaborations of everybody in the fellowship
That's
while we
dope.
were there. Not even just the music that I brought to the table, but just in general, like the collaborations. So, and yeah, so but that's one piece of it. But something that came up while I was out there was just the idea of home. And like I was traveling back home in a way because I found out shortly before the trip, like certain things I'm realizing were like right before the trip. But I realized shortly before the trip, my father had taken the ancestry test like a while ago. And
Oh wow.
I hit him back up and was like, hey, like, can you remind me where our ancestry from your side stems from? I know I'm about to go out to Africa. Like I'm just trying to get a
Put it
geographic,
together.
like visual,
Yeah.
like a visual with
Yeah.
it all. And he hit me back and was like, "Yeah, so the majority of the ancestry is from the Ivory Coast and Ghana." And I was like, "Oh,
Ah.
so that added a whole nother level to this trip, right?"
The trip.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
so in a way, I was like quite literally going back home, and I
Yeah.
believe I'm the first generation or first person in my family to travel back to Africa, probably since the transatlantic slave
That's
trade.
right. Yeah.
That I'm
Yeah.
aware. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going back home. But then when I'm out here and I'm in Africa and I'm fully engrossed in it and present, I'm still addressing home being where I'm from, and that
From
being
yeah.
home.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But I'm also a nomad in a way because of all the places I've lived. So I don't look at home as one particular place.
Yeah.
And so this whole notion of home became a topic for me. It was part of the music I was
The
making.
music. Okay.
So that ended up coming out of this project. So right now, I'm fine tuning this idea around the idea of home and what that means, especially for African Americans, I guess, and just people of the African diaspora. But more
Mm.
specifically, if we want to get real tight with it, is like African Americans and the idea of like home and is where we're from. Is this really our home when we don't feel like it's our home? But it
Right.
is in a way, and we contribute to it so much and contribute to the world in general. But there's still influences from where we're originally from. And
Mm.
just all of that, just that whole conversation about that. So I'm like fine tuning this idea of like that conversation and,
I think that's deep.
and where
I
that
don't,
goes,
cause I am curious about that, cause like for myself, without getting super deep into it, like I don't like how people say like home is where your heart is or home is where you make it and things like that. Like I guess if you've never, because I've heard that, I've heard other people say like they went back to Africa or whatever the case may be and they felt like they were home, right? And I've
Mhm.
always wondered like what is it about it that that's the sentiment that they relate it to. You know what I mean? Because to me, like I I put the key in my door and I walk in the house and I feel like I'm home. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I cannot possibly understand going somewhere else and getting
Mhm.
that feeling or even more so of that feeling. Now I can understand going somewhere and feeling like it's a lot of people around you that have a familiar mentality, and I can understand how you might equate that as home. But
Mhm.
I've heard several people say like they went back to Africa or some part of Africa and it's like, man, I felt like I was home. Like, you know what I mean? I never could
Yeah.
understand how they got to that point. Like maybe I felt comfortable. Maybe I felt like, man, we maybe those type of words would make it easier for me. But to use
Mhm.
that word, like I felt home, I'm like, I don't know, dog. When I'm at the crib and I'm in my bed, it gets no more home than that. You know what I mean?
Cool. Yeah.
So,
Well, so from an experience, so I'll say this. I'll be honest. Like it wasn't like I got off the plane and I'm like, I felt, yeah, I'm home now. Like it wasn't that situation. But I
all right,
will say I understand I understand where that comes from, and I would say I felt at home in a way, and it felt like a family member that I hadn't met yet and went there and then felt at home. You know what I'm saying? Like
okay,
that's what it felt like for me, and I can say it from the flight out there was like 98% black people. You know what I'm saying? So
real or
and
okay,
I've only seen that close to that probably on a flight in Atlanta somewhere, depending on where you're going and what week it is. So I've
right.
seen flights where it was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. Like it's like spring break or something, whatever,
Mm,
homecoming weekend
mm,
or something. There's a bunch of people, but it was like a whole bunch of black people from who knows where, like not just one place,
Mm-hmm.
So that was one part of it, I feel like, and then getting out there. And I will say, like, the welcome for me was great, was amazing. Like, I felt very welcome. And then when I got a chance to like chat with people and give my background and find out that I do have lineage from this place, it was like
Mm-hmm.
even more so like embrace,
This is it. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and by the last week I'm there, like people were saying, like you're a Ghanaian, you're one of us,
Yeah,
in a way.
that's dope.
So I think having one this specific like this black experience that you can have when you go to Africa, where you're around like African people, you know what I'm
African
saying? Like
people.
people, and you're around the majority. You're the majority. It's not, even it's not like just this city or this town, or this room we're in is majority
Mm-hmm.
black people. It's like you're in that. So that's one aspect. And the same, there's all types of every place you go has their own woes and systematic problems and all that stuff, but it's not quite in the same way.
The same
and
way.
and then just the people, depending on who you're with and what kind of circles you're in when you go places, of course. But I feel like my experience too was like there's also just this welcome. Like they're not, we've been told these narratives, like I've heard this before, like Africans don't really rock with African Americans because they're like,
Yeah,
who are
I've
you?
heard.
You
Yeah,
don't, what I'm saying? Like, you're
yeah.
not
You're
really
not.
African.
You're not
Like,
official. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. You
yeah,
ain't from the soil like that. So, but it
yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
there was
yeah.
no set tripping or nothing. So that narrative, I'm not, we're not a monolith, you know what I'm saying? So as black
Mm-hmm.
people, so I'm sure there might be some Africans that don't rock with African Americans or whatever. Like, there's people from everywhere, but my
Everywhere.
experience, it wasn't that.
Nice.
So, I feel like between being in the majority and having that welcome that you feel from people and the history that you can dive into when you're there in real time,
Yeah, makes the
I
difference.
think I think makes a huge difference.
Makes
And
the difference.
some people just may connect on a more spiritual way too. When you're in that space.
I can dig it. I can dig it, man.
Yeah.
Just to shift gears a little bit. Uh, so you've been doing your show. I noticed the other day it said episode 11.
hmm
Um, what's that experience doing for you, or what does it mean to you to do that? And please, you can keep it real. I understand, like the people that's gonna watch this podcast is of that audience, and you know what I mean. I'm
Yeah.
a part of the Blacklist, and it's the Blacklist podcast, but I don't want that to be. I don't want that to affect your level of honesty in answering that question.
Oh, no, I can be honest with it.
Hmm.
The show for anybody who doesn't know, the show is, which is, it's a radio show that I started to do, and Greg gave me an opportunity, and it kind of lined up. Uh,
Hmm.
but it's been great for me. Like I genuinely feel joy doing it, and then after every episode, I've had this same feeling. I know as I keep doing it, who knows? Every day might not be the same, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I feel good doing it, and it's a new way to communicate with people. It's a new way to gain and be a part of community. So one, being a part of this Blacklist community has been dope, and being able to add more people to that community. And it's dope being able to do this show and connect with people in real time. Like the people that are, shout out to anybody who's ever been in the chat during the radio show. Like that
Yeah.
brings me so much joy. Like seeing people show up
Hmm.
and be a part of that, and talking to each other and talking to me and commenting on the stuff we're talking about on the show. And it's
Yeah.
really, it's an experience we don't have nowadays, I feel like in
Nowadays.
that, and I don't take that lightly too. So I want to also just give like a level of gratefulness to the people that take the time to listen and to interact and have
Yeah.
conversations with me. Like you giving me an hour of your time, hour and a half of your time a week is wild. So
Who you telling? It never gets
yeah.
old, right? It's like, well, I can't believe this. Yeah.
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 So and when I started this, it was we when we had conversations about starting, I wasn't thinking episode to episode. I was like, I'm gonna just do this consistently, and I'm gonna just get to episode 100, and we'll see
There you
where I'm at
go.
when I
There you
get to
go.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
point. So
Yeah.
I came into this unlike other projects I've done. I came into this with no expectations.
Hmm.
I came in with a clean slate. I really did it out of just joy and just following something I wanted to do.
Right.
And and just wanted to have something of mine that I do consistently and that still integrates all the other
Just
things that I care about, and just
together.
seeing what happens. I don't know. I don't know what will happen. I haven't tried to
Mm-hmm.
like monetize it or nothing. I don't have
Mm-hmm.
no super goals or ambitions with it. I just know the things that I gain from it, and it's something that other people gain something from, and I just want to rock with that. And we'll see where I'm at by episode 100. Like I'll be great.
It's
Just
just doing the
100.
thing, just doing the thing right now, just constantly doing the thing, right? And then
Right, exactly.
then you'll figure out the rest after you've kind of got a healthy habit of just doing the thing, right?
Right,
I
exactly.
do want to ask you because you're one of the few people that I feel like can lend a healthy amount of insight about this. Um, a lot of times people want to do things or they have aspirations or they're inspired to do something, but
Hmm.
and their expectations more times than not are either they don't even take those things into consideration. Not to say that they don't have expectations, but because a lot of times people tend to get their motivations or inspirations from like secular sources. It's not intrinsic of them. It doesn't come from them. It's not something that they truly want to do. They're probably emulating somebody else. And
Hmm.
then once they kind of like scratch the surface of emulating, then they start to realize like, oh snap, and then they start getting expectations versus
Yeah.
someone who truly just goes and get it out the mud, so to speak. So this two-part question. How long how long have you been on this like creative journey of just trying to put pieces together? How long in terms of years would you say?
Since I was probably 12, I feel like,
12. I got you. I
it's
got you.
matured in the different ways, but I feel like I was since the moment I decided, oh, I like writing to music and recording it, like going to my cousin's home, like my aunt's crib with my cousin and recording the songs and
Hmm.
figuring out what that looks like and playing it back and
Hmm.
potentially sharing it with somebody that from that moment I was figuring it out one way or another,
Yeah,
At that point that was like a whole different time frame where, getting a deal and all that was a thing, and there was like a very brief period of time where I thought that was the thing to do. But for the longest and way longer than that, it was more so about I want to figure it out my own way, and like the idea of independence, like doing it independent, and before I even really understood what that meant, or what that
that's
really
so.
entails. You know what I'm
So that
saying?
was
So
so that was my next question. I
yeah,
wanted to ask you, like,
yeah,
at what point did you stop trying to be and then decided that I'm just going to be? You know what I mean?
ooh,
Like, when
yeah,
did you stop? Because again, like I said, a lot of times we come into these spaces and we're either emulating somebody or something we saw, or we're kind of like trying to adopt a certain level of mindset or inspiration that we saw somewhere else, right? But at some
mm,
point, you have to turn the corner and you have to decide how much of this is actually you know what I
mm,
mean, versus how much of it is you trying to be or do something that's
yeah.
not actually you, right? So, like, when do you feel like you probably turned that corner?
I would say 2015 when I founded Love, like the Love Collective. I feel like that was that moment because
Okay.
that was a point where before then, like prior to that, I was the underground artist on the grind, going to every showcase, doing everything that the independent, if you want quote unquote artist is supposed to do, but still
Right.
sticking. But I guess there still was a level of I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna talk about
Hmm.
what I want to talk about. I'm not gonna sell myself short, for whatever I'm doing. Like I'm not just gonna try to ride a wave like that. I may have tested things out, but
Hmm.
I think that was one of the moment where I was like, I see holes in this system that I'm a
System.
part of right now. And rather than try to play y'all game, I'm gonna just
Right.
create the spaces that I want to be in and create something that's bigger than me and bring people into that and see where that
Hmm.
goes. So I feel
Yeah.
like that's the moment where I decided like I'm gonna just be and this will figure it out. This
Figure
will
it
this
out.
will work in its
Okay.
way and it's in the right way that it's supposed to. feel. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say 2015.
At that moment, like, so having had that sort of like epiphany moment or that turn the corner moment, stuff like that, like now, do you sit in the seat of you're chasing your dreams, or do you kind of sit now more in the seat of like I'm just living the reality that I know I'm making for myself?
Both, both.
Okay.
I guess both can be true with that. There's
Mm,
there's a there's a, a dream aspect. There's aspirations. There's stuff I want to do. Like, it's been the biggest goal I've had. I'll just be transparent. Like the biggest goal I've had as a artist that makes music, and uses music as a tool, is to be internationally global, headline touring artist. Like that's been the goal for over a decade now.
right.
But I'm also a multi hyphenate, so and have like the some would say like mogul ideology too, or just create like that world building and also collective mindset and community mindset. So there's other avenues I end up putting my time and energy
Going
to. So
there.
I'm
Yeah.
not just rapping and dropping songs to
Yeah.
to my growth or detriment. That's been the wave. So
Hmm.
yeah. So it's been a thing for a minute. I feel like, but yes, I feel like I can do both. I feel like I have goals I want to do, but at the same time, I'm getting very much in tune with like not contentment, but just being present and not comparing myself as much. Being realistic with who I am and what I want to do and what I'm capable of doing right now. But there's always daily like I could be doing this or I should be doing that.
Yeah. For sure.
That's always
Yeah.
a thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm living it in real time and just being more in tune and honestly more concerned now in the space I'm in about am I living like in what serves a higher purpose? Like is this like is God's purpose in my life?
Hmm.
Being is it leveling up that more so
Yeah.
than just my own accolades and all that. So I don't
That's it.
care. I'm at a level of not caring more than ever when it comes to
Ever. Yeah.
certain things. Not to say I'm not
That's
hungry or I don't want more, but yeah. So
that's
I'm
an
I'm I'm
interesting
in that place
dance.
right
I always think that I feel that like that's such an interesting dance, like because a lot of times um we have certain what things happen that we can equate with being success, or we might feel like this is a success. Or like you were even saying about going to Ghana, it was like I couldn't write that. Like that all came together. You know what I mean?
now. Yeah,
And
yeah,
more times than not, like we'll, especially if we're have any kind of like spirituality or spiritually conscious about anything, we tend to attribute those things to being like, you know, a part of God laying out these sort of like stepping stones or bricks for us to get to what our destination is. And
mm,
then, but then, and like most of the time, people embrace that. Like they're yes, like I'm doing what God has set for me to do. Or you hear people say, "What's for me is for me," and all these things like that, right? But then
yeah,
it's like when the pendulum swings the other way, and maybe something doesn't go the way you wanted it to go or the way you hoped it would go or the way you thought it would go, do we look at that the same way in terms of perhaps that might not necessarily be what you would consider God's purpose for you, or what it is that he's trying to point you in, you know what I mean? I always
yeah,
think that that's an interesting dance because how they say like you tend to celebrate your accomplishments but whisper your failures. We do that to ourselves, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah.
we'll attribute it as being a failure, and at that point all spirituality goes out the window. It's just like, dang man, I took a L, you know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
still trying to keep the main thing, right?
Yeah,
um my next the next thing I wanted to ask you about was with regards to, as all of these things kind of come together and you see your music coming together, you see the radio platform coming, you see the things that you're doing with love coming together. I had the privilege of being in LA with you, where like I commended you. Um I've been in your, I guess, ecosystem for quite some time, and I know whenever we did shows, a lot of times we did shows and there was other acts on the bill and you probably headlined, or we were just another act on the bill, so to speak. where
Mm.
the LA show was one that was like FUBUs, like for you by you, like you did that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then you had people come up as features, but they were features on songs with you. You know what I mean? You kind of use it as an opportunity to give them their flowers, which was different than even during the Love Fest shows, because even those, every artist had a slot and a set. You know what I'm saying? Where this one was, you held it down for the entire time. So to see that growth and maturation. But my question is like, how much of all of these things, all of these moving pieces and stuff like that, or how difficult is it rather to make sure that all of these pieces are true to you and not you necessarily trying to do or be something that you're not for the sake of just doing something?
yeah. I think that starts from that. That's a personal thing. Like I said, that's a personal problem.
Yeah.
That's before you even step out the door. You know, like, I feel like that
Mm-hmm.
it starts with your why you're doing something. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I can do 10 things today, but if I know the reason why I'm doing it, and there's, yes, if you want to say like a greater purpose behind what I'm doing, that's all me, you know, and it all makes sense in a way, and that's just kind of how my brain works. Like I have like multiple entry points where people can rock with me in a different way, you know, but it all kind of centers from a certain thing. Like I always say, like the music is the heartbeat, you know, when it comes to my creativity, because
Mm-hmm.
everything stems from it, you know, because it's also been my form of therapy, and before I had therapy, and has been a way for me to reflect on things or just talk about things. So it's all like all this stuff is like flowing from a real place, you know, and every idea stems from those things, whether it's a topic I talked about or the theme of the project. Because that's a big tell for me, is like the theme of the projects that I work on, because that's like where
Mm-hmm.
I'm at right now. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Mm-hmm.
easy to like pull things from that. It's just what makes sense from there. And then I
Right.
got aware that I feel like I'm going on a tangent with this in a way, or just like a really long answer. But
No, no,
then I,
no. It's cool. It's cool. Like it's
yeah,
very difficult. I think it's important, and I think that needs these type of things need to be spoke to more, because like it's very very easy to do something for the sake of, because you have so many things around you that incentivizes you to just go do it for the sake of. Like we're not that far removed from being locked in our houses in a pandemic, and yet people was climbing crates just for
yeah,
the sake of, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I think these things are important in terms of having someone that can tell you, like, look, it's very, very important to just try to do things that are true to yourself, because I think a lot of people have a difficulty trying to figure out what those things are and then consistently walk that walk. So, your
yeah,
answer is no. I, yeah, take
yeah,
it away,
bro.
dude.
I think that it's important. I guess if I'm just speaking to somebody that's like, what, you know, how do I make sure what I'm doing is true to me? It's like I said, that's a personal thing. At first, you got to know your why, like why you're doing something,
Mm-hmm.
and what do you really want, and why do you want those things. And I think once you have that in mind, and you can do things that align with that, then everything you do will kind of tap in with it and will make sense in a way, or can connect in a way. And if you pay attention, you can give through lines with stuff. And I'm grateful too, because it's not just me either. Like I have you, I have, you know, the Love Collective, I have, you know, Sex Love Money. Like I have my wife, I have people around me too that I can bounce things off of,
That's a
and
good one.
or just people that keep me grounded on stuff too, you know, in a way, or just can give me feedback in real time on stuff, and I can kind of
Mm-hmm.
take all those things in. So it's not just me in a bubble. Like, you know, I'm definitely workshopping everything in real time with people that matter, and that I accept their feedback on. I'm not
The
taking
feedback,
everybody's
yeah.
feedback either.
No, no, you can't. Yeah.
I highly suggest
Yeah.
don't do that. Like you
Yeah.
don't live for the comments, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's like you're whoever the people are that really matter to you, and getting that feedback from them. I remember I saw a quote, or not a quote, but a video from Marie Forleo, who, and she was saying like, have a list of, like, write down a list of 5 people that feedback matters to you, you know, or like people
Yeah.
who, if you had to, you know, get like you whose opinions actually
Who's
really, really,
matter?
really,
Who
really
count? Yeah,
mean something
yeah,
to you, and
yeah,
everybody else don't matter. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And so it's just like keeping that in mind that as well. So I give that as another level of what's keeping me as like is it true to myself, and I'm also just a thinker and I write stuff down and everything. So I'm always tapping in or checking in and something.
As you get older and you have more and more experiences, like now, 2023, you ended it with going to Ghana, and then you come back and you start to put into place the things that you want to do going into next year and who you want to work with and some of the goals that you would like to accomplish and things like that. As you get older, how well do you feel like you're doing or not doing with um your in terms of time? Like when you want to do something versus when you can realistically get it done.
Um, uh, how am I
Like
doing with
like
time?
when yeah, like when I say that, I mean it from the standpoint of like sometimes we want to do something and we want to do it today. Like we trying to get this done today, tomorrow, but we might have to wait on this person. We have to wait on this particular thing. As you continue to grow and develop as a person, stuff like that, how well or not so well are you doing with those particular things and just having the patience for for things to kind of develop and happen.
Yeah, that's something that I've had to grow with for sure. Because I would set goals, I would set timelines for myself, especially with like projects and stuff. I would set
Mm,
timelines and stick to that timeline and drop the project. And I might not even have all the stuff on the back end or the rollout, all the things that could be connected with it done yet, and but just to stick to the timeline that I
the
set for
timeline.
myself. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
So I
mm,
feel like my Everything Will Be All Right project was the first time that I released something and had a lot of those elements figured out ahead of time and I put it out when it made sense to put it out. You know,
mm.
and granted that ended up being during the pandemic, so I had time.
You had
I
time,
had,
yeah,
I
yeah,
had more time, but it taught me a lot too, and that was really a really important project for me too, because that was the first project too where I felt like I was fully in the space that I want to be in and the direction I want to go in, and that was when I started to really take on this community aspect of what I do as well.
hmm hmm
So yeah, but I guess I say also I'm learning as well to just be kind to myself and give myself grace the same way I would try to give someone else grace. So set deadlines because you don't want to just be having things
out
linger
here,
forever. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah.
That picture of like the dude with the humongous backpack and it's like songs that I've
So
released and songs that
release, yeah,
I
holding on
still
to,
have.
yeah,
Like yeah,
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
guilty. You know what I'm saying? That's still for sure of like letting certain things take a lot of time, but at the same time it's good to do things right than to just do them. Except
hmm
depend. That it depends though. I feel like there's two parts to that because one is
hmm
it's good to do something right rather than just rush it and just put it out or just to get it done just to get it done. But also, I will say the balance of that is complete is better than not done at all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I, so I feel like it's
yeah.
those two things. It's like doing it in a way where after you've done it I'm not kicking myself in the face for, like I shouldn't have never did this or put this out or whatever. Like it wasn't ready. Like, so I'm not to the point where I can be proud of what I did when I put it out or when I did something, but at the same time, everything don't gotta be extremely perfect, for me to let it go, so or to
Let
to
it
do
go.
to do the thing. So like you said, complete is better than not done at all. So
Not done at all. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I want to know if you relate to this. I'm in a space now personally where like, so I appreciate fan base like anything else, and I wouldn't necessarily classify them as fans, but people who just rocking with you, people who support you and down to like they down with you. I've learned to appreciate that in a different light, and that has helped me personally with navigating time, right? So like there's certain things that I want to do or certain things that I try to do, but now having a support system of quote unquote fans and stuff like that, it's like, well, now I can kind of pay attention to what they're doing, how they're receiving things, how they're not receiving things, and that helps me to have more of a gauge on time as opposed to feeling like I gotta go, you know what I mean?
Mm,
Where no, and then it's helped me a lot with like pacing things, you know what I mean? So I can do something and then I can be like, no, I know the audience and I know how they are and I know like I can like take my time with this one, or I can like on radio, like a lot of times on the radio station I hear you play never before release things,
mm,
you know what I mean? And I imagine I want to see you get to this point. I don't know if you will, but I imagine you'll probably get to the point where you'll be like, look, this is a super dirty, nasty draft. I just want to play it to see what y'all think about it, right?
yeah.
Because I would like to see you get to that space. I don't know if you will, and it's not like mandatory nothing, but like even for myself, kind of like getting to those points and stuff like that, and it helps a lot with again like time. You don't feel like you always gotta be so polished about everything all the time, and everything got to be so just so. For you, not just in having built fans in Atlanta, but then going to LA and you've built fans in LA and things like that. How has connecting with people in that way helped your process?
Connecting with people in what way exactly? Like as
Fan
fans,
base, like
artists. I
being
got
able
you.
to, yeah, 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 yeah.
So one, I want to give you your flowers on here. Just the way that you've been able to go in the community and like have them be a part of the process, and for them to contribute to what you're doing, I think is amazing. So I'm like,
I appreciate it, dude. Thank
you
you,
know what I'm
man.
saying on that, and, you know, especially
Uh-huh.
with Blacklist Weekend and stuff. So I just feel like it's amazing the things that how people are contributing to it is great. So
Mhm.
that's one way I'd say it's like, you know, being a part of a community. But then uh, I have been this way for a minute of like I like to collaborate with people, like people I collaborate with, I end up like actually building real relationships with. So
Mhm.
a lot of the people that I end up like having in my circle of kind of the same cloth in a way, or just we have similar things. So it's super helpful for me. And also, I think it's just when it comes to like people who are just legit fans and not people who collaborate with me, like it's just good to get certain feedback and hear what really resonates, you know, with people. And I think that's something else that I'm working on myself is like, what are ways that people can contribute to this or can get more
Mhm.
involved rather than me cooking up something and just saying, here's a plate for it. But it's more so like, how can you be in the kitchen a little bit
Yeah,
of the process? So
yeah,
I'm figuring that out as well because I can be very much of a silent creator until it's time to collaborate in a way. So,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah, so it's really just been it's just been dope to figure out. I'm more I guess to answer this, I guess I've been more concerned with the people next to me, you know, and like the people that I can collaborate with in different ways, not just music artists, but organizations and people with their own collectives and their own things, and like that's been a really big asset for me when it comes to like what I do and how I can do stuff, you know, more so than
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
the fans doing it for me or people who just rock with consuming the stuff that I'm putting out, but more so like who I can. I'm constantly looking and constantly paying attention, and my brain's always kind of working on like who can I work with next, or I really like what they're
What
doing.
next?
How can I
Yeah,
be of service to that, or how can we work together in some sort of way? And I'm sure you can look back on the last 10 years and it's pretty clear. But
yeah, yeah. Evident.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think
Right.
I don't know if I answered your question, but I think that's where
No, no,
my
you
head
did.
is
Yeah,
at when it
yeah,
comes
you
to
did.
how
Yeah,
I move and how I can like grow with things. It's been the people next
yeah.
to me more so than the people like above or just people that are consuming something for me.
I think it's funny, and I like that's one thing. Like I want like the listeners within who listen to like this podcast or just the things that we discuss in general. Like I want them to know that because a lot of times what we do um on the creative end, like everything that you just described, and like collaborating with people, who can I work with, and how can I work with those people, and things like that. A lot of times it has less to do with the thing that we're actually known for. Like you are known to make music and you write and you could put together songs and stuff like that, and that's part of it, right? Or like in my case, like I DJ, so people know I'll DJ, I'll make mixes or whatever, and I've helped people put their shows together, so on and so forth. But a lot of times when you get down to the like brass tacks of community building and relationship building, that's always like the smallest part of it. You know what I mean? The actual talent thing is the smallest part of it. Your real talent is being able to step in these places and work with people and being able to maybe motivate people or inspire people or show that you are motivated or inspired by somebody else. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah,
think that's where the real testament comes from. So for people that's trying to figure out what their gift is or what their passion is, a lot of times we think that that needs to be some sort of tangible thing. Like,
yeah,
I can't sing, I can't dance. That's not, you don't, you know what I mean? That's not the thing. You don't always, that's not the thing that makes a person, like, that's cool. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But it's a long line of people that can dance and sing. Like,
yeah.
so it's not, you can't look at that as being your gateway,
Right.
you know?
That's based.
Yeah.
That's all capitalism, man. To be honest, like that's capitalism, capitalistic training of the mind. You know what I'm saying? And like thinking that we have to use our bodies and we have to produce in order to be, valued or valuable
Valued or
or
recognized, yeah.
recognizable or like we have to have a trade to, and have
Mm-hmm.
something that can be bought and sold in some sort of way or consumed in order to be of value to society. And that's just not true. But when you're in a capitalistic country and society or wherever you're at, like that's what gets rewarded, you know what I'm saying? And that's what you see
Yes,
all
that's
the
the
time.
highlight.
So,
Yeah.
for people that are like, I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't dribble a basketball, I can't kick a soccer ball. Like, I don't know. I don't even like running around.
I don't know
You know,
what I
so
got. Yeah.
I don't know what I can do. And
Yeah.
it's like, man, be a good human being, man. Figure out how can you be a good human being? How can you be of service to people? How can you
Yeah.
what everybody has gifts and talents and things that they are inclined in or that they can help other people with in some sort of way. Like I know you hear the analogy of like if you bake cookies real good, that could bring joy to people, or it could be even the things from your experience that matter to you. Like I feel like a lot of the
Mm.
times the trials and tribulations are just things that have happened in our lives or the people that are closest to us. There might be a cause that you really, really care about. And it's like, how can I
Care
contribute
about.
to that cause? Like, if it's, you were homeless at a certain point in your life and it's like you really have a sensitivity to the unhoused, and it's like and that really matters to you and you always have this urge inside of you of like, how can I help when I see somebody who looks like, who's struggling in that way? And it's like,
Right.
then you have there's something in you that could be of value in that. And how can I contribute to that? So it's like, it doesn't have to be a
Today.
trade or a product, you
It
don't,
don't. It
and
don't.
we've all like commodified ourselves to be products, from social media
It's
and
like
all
it's
that stuff. So,
disgusting. It's so nasty,
so
dude.
it's like at the end of the day, bro, like just how can I be a good human being? How can I contribute to make like most deaf is he always talks about beauty in this world. Like how can I contribute to making things more beautiful in this world? So it's
You're
like
beautiful.
think of it that
Yeah.
way, man. If you don't have
Mm-hmm.
nothing that sticks out to you or you don't know what what you can provide to people, it's like think about that and it's like what can I do as a human being to make things better for others? You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And how can I contribute? And
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to start. And I think from that you'll figure something out that makes sense for you.
Well said.
You know?
Very well said, man. Very well said. Um, Speaking of capitalism, because it is a real thing.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, me and Alfred have been co-producing a project together, and we're looking forward to putting that out. And there's a part of this conversation we'll have, off air, but I kind of wanted to introduce some of it on air, um, just to give again people a peek behind the curtain of how that kind of thing, the mind, does the frame of mind behind it for one, and then for two, just to kind of like get our wheels turning on it. We were talking about like with the album and not necessarily putting the album on streaming right away or making it available at a premium. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to ask you, especially because you make music and you've put out albums and you know what it's like putting an album out on a DSP. You know what it's like selling it on Bandcamp. You know what those things are like. But in terms of doing the footwork to build community, like we're doing through radio and other outlets and things like that, how do you feel about yeah, let's put out the project and let's put it out at like a premium price point. And for if I say when I say premium, like just for the sake of conversation, let's say a minimum of $50. How do you feel about something like that?
Let me say this too, bro. Like this has been a thing, you know, even if it wasn't the popular thing, like artists, like they call them niche artists up until this point, you know, like since physical music became obsolete in a way, in the traditional corporate sense, you know,
But yeah,
so
yeah,
like since then, it's been a thing that there have been artists that have figured out ways to sell their work for a premium and not just follow suit. You know, you saw Prince doing it. You know, but now uh, we don't like. I feel like as a culture, we're catching up. People are getting more hip to things, and we own the apps when it comes to like these DSPs. Like you know
yeah,
DSPs and like all these different ways like people have like that stuff for free like just drop like you can drop shit for free, that's fine, but I feel like we're catching up now and I'm seeing the trend more and more now of like artists, even if they end up putting it out on all the regular places,
streaming platform.
they have a premium place where people who rock with them can support, you know, and you know,
Hmm.
it's we saw like people with Patreons and things like that before, but now you have platforms like Even or Bandcamp has been there, you know, like for spaces where artists can sell their things for whatever they
Hmm.
want, or their fans can choose their own way of doing. Like Nipsey, you know, like I feel like he's a person who really put that in perspective for people on a big scale, you know, and made it make sense
Right.
for the especially like hip hop culture and the modern man or woman or person, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, he sold a
Yeah.
mixtape for $100 and Jay-Z bought 50 copies or whatever it was, you know,
50
like
copies.
so it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, this is a thing, you know, and the proud to pay, and that became a thing and a movement. So am I like, how do
Hmm.
I feel about it? Like, yeah, like we should have been like, you know what I'm saying? We should have never thought it was cool to break our talent down to parts of a penny, you know, and
Parts of a
you got to
penny. Yeah.
sell a million streams to make, you know, a decent amount. You know, what
Yeah.
you could do for it with 100 people, you got to get thousands and like tens of thousands of people to do for you. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
I was
you know,
I was thinking about not to cut you off, but I
yeah,
was thinking about like just for the sake of context, right? So we transfer is how we send files to one another, right?
mm,
Um, it's a quick, easy way to be able to take a file and via email send it. You know what I'm saying? Really easy way. And even if you went through like Google Drive, you could do it through Google Drive, but then at some point you'll probably have to buy more storage depending on how much stuff is in your Google Drive, right?
right, right,
So I'll use Google Drive as a really good example for this. You know, like to buy um so you get a certain amount of storage in Google Drive for free just because you have a Gmail account.
mm,
But like if you needed more storage, Google Drive will charge you somewhere around like $5.99, $2.99, something like that,
mm,
depending on how much more storage you need.
yeah,
Now, if we think about that in context, you're paying $5.99 for more storage in Google Drive when I can go on iTunes and buy your whole song for $1.99, sometimes 99 cents,
mm-hmm,
right?
yeah,
That's like crazy to me.
mm-hmm,
Like even we transfer the method that we're using to send. I'm gonna send a track, you send some vocals, or I'm gonna send this and you send this. That platform for me to be able to send the amount of gigabytes of stuff that I'm sending at any given time, it costs me more to send you the music so we can work on it than iTunes actually makes the song, the complete finished song for sale on their platform.
man.
That's so terrible to me, you know?
And that's from someone who purchases it through that platform. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying? Like
yeah,
we're not even
yeah,
gonna talk about how much it takes to make a dollar. Like, I forget how many thousands of streams now it is to make $1. You know what I'm
yeah, yeah.
saying?
It's like 100,000. Yeah, it's crazy, yo.
So yeah,
Yeah,
and who's
yeah,
who's buying albums on iTunes like that? You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's not even,
yeah.
you know, but yeah, it's crazy.
Mm-mm.
So,
Yeah,
but yeah, I
yeah.
mean that's what we.
So
There's so much
yeah,
that goes into that, you know, to making the music and then selling it for a certain amount. It's crazy the amount that we were okay with giving music away for. It was to the point where the music is the free thing. This is the freebie. Like you're giving the
yeah,
music for people to buy other things. But I feel like that we're moving in a new direction, man. We're moving in a new direction.
Where that's gonna come back
I feel
around.
like
Yeah.
now we have more ways. I feel like now we're catching up as
Yeah.
a creative community and ways of like how
Community.
people can support the artist again. And I think the next thing, I just saw a post from somebody that I rock with that was talking about blogs coming back and websites, like utilizing your website more than social media now, because it's been very clear like the social media is basically getting us the same way that the DSPs are getting
Yeah.
us, you know,
It's
for
the same.
free.
It's the same crap.
So it's like
Yeah.
using that to get people to go to your home base, you know, your home platforms. And we've been on that for
Mm-hmm.
a few years now, of like having our
For
own
years
space
now.
and platforms
Yep.
and not playing that game anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that's going to become a thing. That's going to become a thing
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, it's about time. I think we're just
Yeah.
moving in that direction now, which I'm here
I
for
got
it.
you.
You know?
Cool. And I think that's the beautiful part. Like now that we are grassroots with everything and building community and things like that, now we actually have a place to be able to like have these sort of conversations, and then those people can enjoy it, and it makes them that much more excited or willing to say, hey, whatever it costs, like I'm willing to, you know what I mean? Because I truly support it, not just in passing or not just because it's on my timeline. I truly support this because I spend time, like you said, once a week, every Thursday, you guys carve out time in your schedule to be here. You know what I mean?
Which is wild,
And those
bro.
things matter.
I'm still
Yeah.
like, man, I was thinking about that earlier this week. Like, man, that there's people, even if it's 15 folks that stick with me
No matter.
for an hour and a
Mm-hmm.
half, you know, on a weekly
Yeah.
basis.
Yeah.
And that's only gonna grow as
Mm-hmm.
time goes. But it's like, man, time is crazy right now. I feel like nobody has time,
Mm-hmm.
nobody's got attention. So what is that saying? You know, that you can
Yeah,
even if you
exactly.
can
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
15 people to do that, because it's hard enough to get somebody to stay on the IG live for 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
5 minutes. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't take
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
lightly.
It matters. And then you can see, you can appreciate the value in things differently because, like I know I can jump on the coffee shop on a Tuesday and I can play some music and have camaraderie and things like that. And it'll be, I can get, let's just say it's 27, 20, 30 people listening, right? And in that time period of those 2 hours, I can get somewhere around like, I don't know, anywhere between 250 to 300 hearts, right? But like when you look at it in context, it's like, look at what we did in the 2 hours. We hung out with each other. I played music. I shared some vulnerabilities with you all. You guys said things in the chat. And then not only that, but y'all came back the next week and then the next week and the next week. I posted a picture on social media. I ain't never even came close to 300 hearts. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And even if I did, it wouldn't mean the same thing because it's such a fleeting thing on social media, where what we're doing on the blacklist and on the coffee shop and on Nomad Radio, that's real.
yeah,
You know what I mean? That's you. Yeah, that's a different sort of thing. So, context matters, and you can appreciate what the value of things actually are that way a whole lot better. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah,
I'm giving value, you know, to you for a period of time. We're building camaraderie. You're learning more about me. I like, you know, this space, and there's like a personal thing for me of just the medium of radio was special to me. You know, coming up when I was in college. So there's like a personal aspect for me, but I think it's great that we're building in a way that you don't get on other platforms. You know, I just think it's dope.
true, true. Man, this was a pleasure, man. I appreciate having the opportunity to sit down with you. A different kind of conversation, but a good conversation nonetheless. Always a good conversation.
Yeah.
Um, what's next, man? I know we got a lot of things that we're looking forward to doing in the upcoming year. But in the more, I guess, immediate future for you, you just did a whole album in Ghana. How about that? So, like, what's next for you in terms of like, okay, this is immediately about to happen, or is everything pretty fluid right now?
Ooh. I mean, what's immediately about to happen is Nomad Radio next Thursday. Whenever you watch this, yeah, Nomad Radio every week. That's an immediate thing.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I'm working. I mean, we're working. I mean, I got projects, man. There's like projects on the way. Like we got our project, you know, curating dopeness too, that
Mm-hmm.
we're fleshing out and finishing. I know you're taking lead, you know,
Mm-hmm.
point on that. So, and that's one thing. It's crazy because I had a project already that I was working on and was planning to put out
Yeah.
this upcoming year, but this project about home from Ghana it just seems more immediate for me. So
Took the front seat.
I'm listening to
Yeah.
that, and I'm like, I'm gonna put this out while it's fresh, and
Okay.
while and while it's a real thing for me, and it flooded into the Love Collective and where we're going to. So we're really playing off of bridging the gaps between African diasporan artists, wanting to do that. So in the media is this
Mm-hmm.
home project, our project, that you and I got going on. And that's the most immediate thing. And the Life Collective is going to have some ways to work with artists in Love Fest. We're plotting on that right now too for next year. So, and
Okay.
I said this on my radio like an episode or two ago, but I'm really hoping that I can drop 2 projects next year. That would be beautiful for me. If I could, personally, not just our project, but personally, if I can do 2 next year, so I can get this idea out, so I can get on to the next thing.
Next thing.
It'd be great, man. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really
Mm-hmm.
hoping to make that happen as well. So,
If Love Fest, I don't want to say if because I'm pretty sure it is. So with Love Fest, 9 times out of 10 coming back next year and stuff like that, we got to make it a way where it can definitely be. We can tie that into being like the Blacklist family being a part of that in some form of fashion. Um, Even attaching it I don't know if I don't want to speak too soon and say it will end up being a part of like Blacklist Weekend, but definitely something in that realm. You know what I
you
mean?
thought you wasn't gonna be a part? Oh, please! Like that was already in the footnotes to me, bro. No, Blacklist community is definitely gonna be involved with this. We got to talk. I don't
Hmm.
want to. I don't want to say too many spoilers on
For
here of
sure, for sure,
what's
for
getting
sure.
left out. But hopefully, if you're watching this and you're part of the Blacklist community, if you're willing to come out to LA in 2024, then please
Mhm.
just put that
Just pencil it
in
in.
your memory
Yeah,
banks and plan for that, because we definitely want to have an experience, and it would be amazing. Much of the Blacklist community. No, y'all traveled to Atlanta for Blacklist weekend the first time, so if
yeah,
y'all willing to come out to LA, I think you'll be in for a treat, for this upcoming
in for a
year.
treat.
So
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely,
yeah,
y'all will be
yeah.
involved.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. Let's do it. As always, it's a pleasure, man. I'm gonna give you the opportunity to properly sign us off, and until next time.
Yeah, well, man, I'm just appreciative, man. Again, I'm Alfred Nomad, and you can check out all the music. My current project is Keep Moving Forward, so I've been telling people to check that out. It's about perseverance and speak on like generational lessons, that I learned with, especially with my father, with keeping moving forward. So check that out. And yeah, we're just gonna keep dropping this, this music, this good music, giving y'all good music, and also building community and just figuring out ways that we can connect on a deeper level with everybody. So if you rock with that, I think you'll rock with us and rock with the Blacklist community too. So appreciate y'all, man.
Good deal, man. Peace and love. Thank y'all for episode 2. And as you know, this podcast is not just available right here on YouTube if you're watching it, but if you're listening, then it's available on all DSPs as well. And you can follow the Blacklist on mixlr.com. Set up a profile if you like. Get in the chat. We got shows that come on pretty much almost every day. It's a healthy amount of shows, but you'll get a notification either way. Or if you don't want to set up a profile, that's understandable too. You can listen in as a guest and support us that way as well. But at the end of the day, go to theblacklist.com, and any information as well as how to contact us for any future endeavors is you can get it all right there. We appreciate y'all, and we'll see y'all next time.
Yes, yes. Peace and love.